Good morning. How the devil are you doing this fine day? Hope you're all fit and well. Has anyone been watching the news coming out of Florida, Georgia, and North Carolina over the last 24 hours? Imagine having that hanging over your head every time hurricane season rolls around. I'm sure they're all lovely places to live, but imagine creating your dream house knowing that sometime in the next 12 months, the whole thing could just be blown away. Then again, it's not entirely dissimilar to this show. Every day I build it up only to tear it all down again and start again afresh the following day. Trust me, it's a thankless existence. Now, don't forget, for the third consecutive day, there is a Komatsu baseball cap up for grabs for one lucky viewer. I don't actually have one in front of me. I may grab one later in the show. You probably know the score by now, and if you don't, I do have a tool for it. You probably know the score by now. For your chance to win an exclusive Komatsu baseball cap, just type the word prize, Prize, into the chat. We will pull out the name of one lucky winner at the very end of the show. We've also still got a few of our exclusive Breakfast Show stickers up for grabs as well. I'll tell you more about that towards the end of the show. The chat just went very, very busy for some reason. And it went busy. It got busy. Sorry, purely because I mentioned the prize. Apparently, I'm set up in Al Grierson's kitchen. Need to start cooking. Well, you crack on with that, Al. Don't let me stand in your way. But if you're knocking up pancakes, send some this way, would you? And I'm going to say very quickly, good morning to Leslie, who I don't think we've seen here before. Let's have a look. Leslie, thank you very much indeed for joining us, and thank you for entering the competition. I wish you all the best with that. Thank you for joining us. There's your welcome confetti. Yes, lots and lots of entries for the prize. So, without further ado, while all that's going on, let me roll the let me try it again. Let me roll the intro, post the question of the day, and get this show on the road. I'm going to say a very quick apology to Leslie, who has apparently been here before. I said this before. I knew I should have kept a register of people that were here and people that haven't been. But the fine Paget family down at Kent Demolition are in the house as well today. So good morning to you. You've entered the competition. Good to see. Mantis over on LinkedIn is also in the house as well and has just entered the competition. Okay. We get some random questions here, it has to be said, and we've got a corker today. Here we go. I'm not going to try and pronounce that name, but can you dig corpse while doing work? And apparently he insists on asking that same question about 10 times. I don't know what you mean. I think it's something you should try to avoid. Don't make me block you by continuing with that, because I will. It is Thursday, the 31st of August. It is the very end of August. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony. In today's show, Liebherr prepares for an electric future with a new energy storage solution, should I say. We're off to Italy for some awesome demolition. We'll be taking a look at how cold recycling is revolutionizing road repairs and replacements. It's too many R's for this time of the morning. And Striker Light, a construction light so good, they wrote a song about it. Plus, as I've already mentioned, there is another Komatsu baseball cap up for grabs. We will, I promise, get to all of that in just a second. But first, let's peer back through the mists of time to see what was going on this day in history. Now, our friend over on Facebook has just calmed down. Where are you from, my friend? I am from the UK, specifically London. That's where I'm from. Jim Turner has just arrived. Andy Dyson, not content with already having won a Komatsu baseball cap, is back in the mix as well. Good luck with that, Andy. Listen, if you want to, You can have two, not a problem at all. Now, on this day in 1241 AD, Roman Emperor Caligula was born in Anzio in Italy. And we all know all about Caligula, don't we? We've seen the movie. Yes. In 1888, the body of Mary Ann Nichols, Jack the Ripper's first known victim, was discovered in Whitechapel. In 1946, the cartoon character Foghorn Leghorn made his debut. Boy, I say boy, one of my personal favourites. In 1987, the video for Michael Jackson's song Bad premiered on US television. Little known fact, that video was directed by none other than Martin Scorsese. And on this day in 1987, Princess Diana was killed in a car crash in a road tunnel in Paris. I was actually on holiday with the family in Portugal the day that happened, so it made it a doubly memorable event, which kind of inspired today's question of the day, which I'm going to remind you of right now. Yes, today I'd like you to all think about the most memorable moment of your life. Obviously, the day I got married would be right up there. The most memorable moment of my personal life, I guess, would probably be the day that I became a father for the first time, the first of 4 times. Looking more widely, though, I would say the Live Aid concert in 1985, the tragedy of 9/11 back in 2001, and of course, Princess Diana. I'm not a royalist or anything like that, but Princess Diana dying because it coincided with the holiday. And I literally was doing my children's breakfast when it came on the TV news. Listen, our friend who is very busy over on Facebook is from India. And he says, can you remove glasses, please? No. No, as you're a newcomer, I will make allowances. And I know Ken Hatcher's enjoying this enormously. Take your glasses off, Mark. Can you take your hat off? I'm not taking anything off. But just to explain, because somebody here is a newcomer, I am looking at a camera and a screen over there as well, and it will look like I'm having a seizure if I take my glasses off. Trust me, you don't want to be seeing that. Andrew Croft has just joined us as well. Andrew and Glenn Johnson is here as well. Please have a look. Have a look along the bottom of the screen. Type the word prize, Prize. Oh, Andrew Croft's already done it. Type the word prize into the chat for your chance to win an exclusive Komatsu baseball cap. And we've got a good turnout today, and we're up to 12 entries all already. And Gary Muirhead, sounding a lot like Joe Cocker this time in the morning, says you can leave your hat on. For older generations, leave your hat on. May well bring to mind Tom Jones, but it was Joe Cocker in the first place. Can you talk? Sorry, my friend, I'm unable to catch your speed. You're quite a demanding guest. I'm not taking my hat off. I'm not taking my glasses off. And unfortunately, good or bad, this is the way I speak. I'm sorry if that's too quick for you. Just the way it is. Now, where were we? Yes, let me know your most memorable moment from personal or public or whatever life. You get the idea. Now, cast your mind back just a few years, if you would be so kind. Construction equipment manufacturers contented themselves with just trying to build the very best diggers and loaders they possibly could. Not any longer, it would appear. As sustainability becomes the watchword of the industry, the role of the equipment manufacturer has shifted from digger maker to custodian of the planet. We've reported previously on how Volvo is now able to build machines from fossil-free steel. We reported just yesterday how JCB was harnessing hydrogen, not just off-road, but on-road too. And today, it's time to see how Liebherr is planning to store the vital and precious electric energy we're all going to need in the years ahead. two things I'd like to add here. The first is, I guess, that manufacturers like Liebherr, Volvo, JCB are probably best placed to pioneer some of these developments, as they know precisely what their machines are going to need in terms of steel and power and components and everything else. Second thing is this, and this is a very quick heads up. On Saturday this week, I'm going to be hosting a Saturday social show. Now, under normal circumstances, I like it when these weekend shows are free-flowing, no agenda, no script. By and large, that will be the case again this time around. But given the excellent conversation we had last week about electric power, I thought I might try to guide things a bit this time. A few years ago, Balfour Beatty published a white paper that predicted that UK construction sites would be human-free by 2050. We know that manufacturers like Volvo are planning to be emissions-free by 2040. But what about you? You're at the very sharp end of the construction sector. What do you think the industry will look like in, say, 10 or 15 years' time? Will we have made the switch away from diesel? Will we have greater levels of autonomous and remotely controlled machines? Will we still have humans on site? If so, will those humans actually get paid on time? Will they have PPE that actually fits? We're going to discuss all of that on Saturday morning. So join us if you can. Now, I had a couple of extended comments in the chat. There's a couple here. This is my personal favourite. Where is my aunt, Mark? I've got nothing. I have no answer for you on that. Gary Muirhead, does your new guest work for the NFDC? Possibly. Possibly. May just be sent in to infiltrate. I really don't know. Graham Footy Williams says, if you drive across London, yeah, you get in an older type of vehicle, you get an £180 fine. How's that going to work with people driving to work in London now or the outskirts? Yes, and I mentioned this before because it did come up on the discussion while I was over in Germany a couple of weeks back. Sadiq Khan will go on TV and tell you how much sustainability matters to him. But if you're willing to pay £12.50, he will allow you quite happily to bring your gas guzzling car into the capital. Does that make any sense? Not sure it does. Ken Hatcher. Bet he asked, "Can we see your teeth?" What the few that are left? I could do that possibly. Point to ponder. Says Mick Norton. Good morning, Mick. The M1 was built at the rate of one completed mile every 8 days. A bridge was completed every 3 days, finished on time in 19 months and on budget of £16.5 million. Oh, those were the days. Why is the 2023 HS2 construction workforce unable to match the productivity of bygone years? Some cynics might say it takes 3 days to complete an induction in 2023. And obviously inflation. I'm not going to get into the cost, although HS2 is a runaway train of cost. But think about that. Think about the M1. When was that built? 50s, 60s, thereabouts. Think about how much construction technology, how much equipment technology, how much more we have at our disposal, and yet we are unable to match the productivity of a gang of Irish navvies back in the day. Why is that? Dan Cullen believes that in 10 to 15 years' time, we will still have humans on site. I hope so, because otherwise I will be sat here talking to myself. Thomas Whiting says we had all-electric skip truck this week, builders merchants lorry with an electric Hiab. The change is coming. The change is coming, people. Lou Carney, good morning, Lou, and thank you very much indeed for the box of goodies, which will be going up for grabs in the very near future. She is welcoming our new guest all the way from India. Maybe his aunt is the corpse and he's asking you to dig her up. I've got nothing on this afternoon. You know, you never know. Yes, Mark, I want to know where my auntie is too. I never thought I'd see the day where I needed a sign above the door that said, "We don't find aunties for a living." But there we are. That's where we've ended up. Peter McKenna once delivered a large 50-foot long. No, I'm going to come back to this because this is our memorable moment of the day. Question of the day. No, that's a question of the day. We'll come back to that. Mark's teeth are like the stars. They only come out at night. They don't actually. All that remain are my own. There's just not as many as there used to be. Morning to the ever fabulous Lucani. Yeah, I will echo that as well. Yes, cost £190 for a car. How much does it cost for a lorry to take a digger on the back to the sites now? That'll be the next thing. It's already coming. I'm literally crying with laughter here. I'm kind of crying with confusion. I didn't expect the show to go off in that direction anymore at any point in time. Now, just a reminder: Saturday Social, 10 a.m. on Saturday morning, which is why it's called the Saturday Social. Join us if you can, because we're going to be talking about the future of construction. Now, to try and get us back on track, and while I catch my breath, here's this. There was a time, which incidentally is the name of a very, very good Guns N' Roses song, but there was a time when, if you wanted to see the very best demolition in the world, you would look towards the UK. But we've been caught up, and in some instances, we've also been overtaken. There is some superb demolition taking place right now in Canada, the US, New Zealand, and Australia. We recently brought you some exclusive footage of the Jumbo working alongside the team at Despe in Italy too, who are a world leader in all things demolition. Well, it turns out that Despe is not the only Italian demolition company worth watching. Now, I need to pay attention to this one, because if I remember rightly, this film ends rather abruptly, but take a look. Told you it ended abruptly. I was paying attention though, thankfully. Superb film, I think you'll agree. And very pleased that Jim Turner, I actually chose that music myself. Pleased that Jim Turner enjoyed it. He is our resident tunes expert. Thank you very much indeed for that. Callan says, I think your new guy has auto-translate is allconfused.com. I think you could be right. And he liked the colour of those machines in Demolition Europe too. Mick Norton is throwing up this for consideration for Saturday. It's Saturday Social. Drones overhead inspecting the site and collecting data and sending instructions to robotic cranes and excavators with automated builders who need no human involvement. At the stroke of a pen, the skill shortage will be solved. The only risk might be cyber attacks. Just think the CSCS will be null and void. I wonder if there is somebody within a training organisation that is thinking how they might still earn a buck when humans are replaced by robots. I bet somebody's thinking about it because that's the way they work. Now, let's have a spot of this.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
We all know that the demolition sector is superb at recovering, recycling, and repurposing materials from one building to help create a new one. Well, it turns out the highway sector are pretty adept at materials recycling too.
Worn-out roads are a part of daily life for many people. When it comes to infrastructure planning, these roads present constant challenges. Cracks, potholes, and other types of deterioration develop from environmental factors and everyday use. Simple surface repairs often are no longer enough, and many roads need structural renewal. An exceptionally efficient and economical solution is cold recycling. First, a preliminary evaluation is done on the overall state of the road. This includes an analysis of its layer composition, a test of the bearing capacity of the base layer, and material sampling for further testing in the lab. Using the samples, material properties of the construction are determined, including information such as aggregate gradation, the optimal moisture content for later compaction, and the proper mixture of binding agents. Binding agents that are used include hot bitumen in the form of foam or a bitumen emulsion, cement, and water. The recipe for the binding mixture is determined using a test for indirect tensile strength. The resulting recycled mixture is known as a bitumen stabilized material, or BSM. The material characteristics of the BSM can be easily determined using the simplified triaxial compression test. The bitumen was added evenly during the cold recycling mixing process. During compaction, it creates points of bituminous microbonds. This creates a unique building material. The way the BSM mixture creates a patchwork of tiny bituminous microbonds means that the material can bear traffic loads using only its grain structure. Roads built with this material can therefore withstand the heavy traffic on our streets over the long term. The dimensions of the surface layer, along with the necessary thickness of the BSM layer, can be either measured or calculated. Both methods of determining pavement thickness with BSM layers are established and reliable for all load classes. After the preliminary and composition analysis, the recycling process can begin. Depending on the project requirements, either the cold mixing plant, KMA, the CR, or the WR may be used. Use of these machines always ensures the most efficient method for structural road rehabilitation. There are enormous advantages to use cold recycling over conventional methods. Up to 100% of the existing material can be reused. Removal and transport costs are drastically reduced. The process reduces CO2 emissions by up to 60% and saves up to 50% on binding agents. Plus, it cuts construction time by up to 50% compared to conventional methods. Do road rehabilitation climate-friendly, sustainable, and quickly with cold recycling, a process that is gaining popularity all over the world. Wirtgen's cold recycling process.
Yeah, with countries like China, India, and the US continuing to belch smoke and soot into the atmosphere, it's tempting to believe that we are fighting a losing battle in our attempt to save the planet. But it's lots of little contributions like that that might just make the difference. So hats off to Wirtgen and all who sail in her. Now, let's have some of this as a quick reminder.
If you would like to buy a limited edition Break Fast show sticker, head on over to buymeacoffee.com/demolition news/extras.
Yes, I will add a link to that in the chat. Let me do it now while I remember it. Let me press that button there. You should be seeing the link for the stickers now. Not to dwell on that. Now, sight lights. Sight lights, vital but dull. I think you'll agree. Oh, sure. As the nights begin to draw in, we will all need those lights to guide our way and to allow our work to continue late into the afternoon. But do we really pay those lights any attention? Well, it turns out that someone has. In fact, there is a band so enamored with sight lighting that they've actually written and performed a song about them. And for good or ill, we have that song for you right now. Here we go.
When you're out in the dark, not a single spark to light up your life. When you're a little bit frustrated, when you're out in the fields, when you're plowing your seed, do your dirty deed. Yeah, it's a little bit complicated, 'cause I really wanna see it all, what's coming my way. Hey, 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 let there be light all over. Stand up for your right to be free. Deliver your rights, rock and roll over. And if you really need some light in the dark, you can call me in black, feeling out of track. Let me show you the way. Yeah, I'm gonna make it brighter. Let the real light all over. Stand up for your right to be free. Deliver your rights, rock and roll over. And if you really need some light in the dark, you can let the real light all over. Stand up for your right to be free. Deliver your rights, rock and roll over. And if you really need some light in the dark, you can trust in me. Let there be light all over. Stand up for your rights to be free. Deliver your rocks, rock and roll over. And if you really need some light in the dark, you can let there be light all over. Stand up for your rights to be free. Deliver your rocks, rock and roll over. And if you really need some light in the dark, you can trust in me. So let there be light. So let there be light. And if you really need some light in the dark, you can count on me. You can count on me.
Hope you're all joining in. I think the members of Guns N' Roses can probably rest easy in their beds knowing that a song about construction lighting is unlikely to knock them off their rock god perch. But still, not every item of plant that gets a song about it, and apparently it went down quite well. I have to admit, I watched it once yesterday and I hated it. I watched it again today. Actually quite enjoyed it. Bizarre, right? Mark, is that lead singer a sibling of yours? No, it is not a sibling of mine. As Lou Carney has pointed out, it does look a lot like Jeff Schofield. For those of you that don't know Jeff does the PR for Thwaites, among other companies, and he does look a lot like that. Hat and everything. But no, I don't believe it was him. Did set me thinking. I know we've had songs, obviously we've had songs about construction lights now. We've had songs about Cat, JCB, and John Deere in the past. Is there another manufacturer or an item of plant that deserves its own song? Could you write one? Let me know in the chat. While you're doing that, it's time once again to find out who has won today's Komatsu baseball cap. I'm going to give you about 15 seconds. If you haven't done so already, please type the word prize, Prize, into the chat. Let's have a look. Says Jim Turner, that's how to advertise. I totally agree. Yeah, I tell you what, if it was a bit shorter, I'd love to feature that as an advert. Andy Dovell, who doesn't love a bit of high-reach industrial demolition? Well, I certainly do. Let's have a look. Yeah, Al Grierson, actually a great song. Much to my surprise. Mick Norton says, must be the Quarrymen. The Quarrymen for the uninitiated or the young, and the young at heart. Original name of the Beatles. Yes. Right. Okay. It is now time to draw the prize. We're stuck at 15 entries. So let me get that on. You'd think I'd know how to do this by now. There we are. Let's make sure we're looking at the right thing. We are. So there we are. Jim Turner has just suggested, by the way, the Breakfast Show songwriting contest. Yes. Please. So I know Lou Carney used ChatGPT and AI to create a song about the Breakfast Show, but I'd like a full-length version if anybody out there would like to do that. But while you're all thinking about that, let me roll this randomizer and see who's won today's Komatsu baseball cap. Andy Darvell. I can think of nobody more deserving than our friend Andy Darvell. Congratulations, Andy. You will need to let me have your postal address because I need to send it to you. But I'm going to be popping out at some point later this afternoon. So if you can get me your address really, really quickly, then I will get it over to you. Let's have a look. Graham Footy Williams says, I wonder if CSCS cards do that. Not sure what that's about. Mick Norton, Navigator by the Pogues for a real construction song. I need to go and check that one out. There is Gary Muirhead saying, well done, Andy, and Dan Cullen saying exactly the same. Yes, well done, Andy, indeed. Met Andy a good few years ago now. I'm so delighted that he's managed to walk away with a prize today. Andy, just, he says, wicked. Wicked indeed. Yeah, Andy, please, on, I'm sure we follow each other over on LinkedIn. Just drop me a line with your postal address and I'll get that out for you to do. I could have it to you there for the weekend should you so desire. You can go out the weekend sporting your brand new hat. Let's have a look. That pretty much I think wraps up this morning's show, the main part anyway. I'm going to roll the outro in just a second before leaping gazelle-like probably into the chat to see what you're all saying today. If you can't stick around for that, then please stay safe, look after your family, your friends, that sounds wrong. Let me do it again. Look after yourself, your family, your friends, and your colleagues. It has to go in the right order. But if you do have the time and the inclination, please stick around because the Craic will begin immediately after this final word from our key show sponsor. Yeah, slight change in music today. I know we've lost a couple of people. I know Ken Hatcher has gone back to work. Dan Cullen has gone as well. I think Peter McKenna may have left as well. But we'll soldier on. McAlpine's Fusiliers by the Dubliners, another classic. I need to go and look these out. Odd that they're all Irish. Not odd at all. No great surprise whatsoever. But I will go and check those out. Obviously, the chat this morning was in chaos. Through no fault of my own, as far as I can tell. Let's have a look. So, first off the mark. Once again, they managed to do it in the order that they appear on my stream deck. Ken Hatcher was first off the mark, and Gary Muirhead was second off the mark. And Gary has come up overnight. He's come up with a couple of new questions of the day, and one of them, which we will be doing tomorrow for the final show of the week, it's a corker. I say the final show of the week, the final one of these shows of the week. Obviously, we'll be back on Saturday morning to chew the fat and generally put the world to rights. Our friend Sick Note, Peter McKenna, is here as well. Andy Darvell didn't realise at the point that he posted this, he said, good morning, Mark, and all you lovely people. He didn't realise that 36 minutes later, he would be the proud new owner of a Komatsu baseball cap. How life deals its cards, eh? Who we got here? Chris Ford. Top of the morning to you all. It's a fine day when it doesn't rain. What's it doing at the moment? I can't see through the window at the moment. Don't know what it's doing out there, but hopefully it's pleasant. Al Grierson. Good morning, Mark. Good morning, gang. And I think Al has a note from his mum that excuses him from Saturday's show. He'll be sorely missed, but he has a good reason. We'll get to that in a second. There is Dan Cullen saying good morning, everyone. Who else have we got here? Yeah, Al Grierson says, got you set up in the kitchen, need to start cooking. Where do people watch? I know some of you guys watch me in the cab of your machines and you're watching on mobile phones, but where am I? I know, I remember Peter McKenna, I think it was, sent me a photograph where he was actually playing YouTube through his widescreen TV in his front room. I don't know. I can only imagine what a horror show my head is at that size. But where are you watching? Not just country-wise or region-wise. Where are you watching? Are you watching at work? Are you watching at home? Let me know. Lots and lots and lots of entries for the prize. But as it turns out, it was going to Andy Darvell. Let's have a look. Who else have we got here? There is our friend Mantis, who watches regularly over on LinkedIn. Good to see him here. This is where things went off sideways. Can you dig corpse while doing work? Same person then asked exactly the same question. A good 7, 8, 9, 11 times. I still don't know the answer. Ken Hatcher says, I think he's a virus. I must admit, I thought that maybe it was an attempted hack, but then he did actually start asking questions and offering instructions as well. Dan Cullen, don't believe he knows what he's saying. Andy Dyson, that's the way to look at the week. Happy Friday Eve. Oh, Friday Eve indeed. There is our friend back again. Where are you from? Right here in the UK, just outside London. He turns out he is from India, and apparently he has a corpse he needs to get rid of, possibly. Yes, we've covered the reason that I don't remove the glasses, not just the fact that my eyes are bloodshot and have huge bags underneath them. It just doesn't work. Mick Norton's in the house. Morning, Mick. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Ken Hatcher joining in. Take your glasses off, Mark. Can you take your hat off? Take my shirt off as well if you like. Nobody needs to see that. I won't be doing that. Andrew Croft crept in while I wasn't paying attention. Morning, Andrew. Thank you very much indeed for being here. Good of you to join us and honour us with your presence. Glenn Johnston is here as well. Now, my question of the day was most memorable moment. I don't think we had too many entries, but the birth of my amazing children. In some ways, I chart back the birth of my oldest daughter, Georgia, who I'll be seeing in just a few hours' time, actually, was probably the day that I grew up. That being said, I'll tell you the full story in a second. But that being said, a couple of days after she'd been born, I went to pick my wife and my new baby girl up from the hospital. And this was back in the day. I don't know if they still do this, but the nurse insisted that she would carry my new daughter down the stairs in a car seat, and she would secure her in the car seat before we took her home. And I guess that's just the NHS covering their arse. You know, while you're on our premises, we will make sure that everything's hunky-dory. But I remember as we started the car and attempted to drive off, looking at my wife and thinking, they've just left us in charge of a baby. What the hell are they thinking? Most bizarre. And just to fill in the gaps on the story, my wife went into labour 36 hours after she went into labour. It became apparent that there was no way she was going to be able to deliver our daughter Georgia, so she was taken in for an emergency cesarean. So while they were piecing her back together again, I was handed my newborn daughter while I was sat out in the corridor, and I literally unwrapped her and went through, and the midwife came out and said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm counting her fingers and toes." I don't know why that would have mattered, but when I came up with an even number, I was quite happy, and I wrapped her back up again. But yeah, most memorable half hour of my life. First bit, horrible, my wife being whisked off for emergency cesarean and me being left helpless outside, but then all made up for by the birth of my daughter. So yes, the birth of my amazing children, I can certainly relate to that one, Gary. I'm planning to leave my hat on. Might change the hat from time to time, but I'm going to leave it on. Can you talk slowly, my friend? I'm unable to catch your speed. I have no control over this. This is just how the words kind of fall out, as you've probably gathered by now. Lots and lots of entries there. There's Lucani, I think, enjoying our newcomer. And this, can you dig corpse? Was weird. But this, I think, was weirder. Where is my aunt, Mark? What? Your aunt isn't here. I can tell you that much because I've looked. I've no idea. I get lots of comments in the chat, and sometimes because they've been written on a mobile phone in a hurry, they're difficult to make out. But I generally make it through. This one, where is my aunt, Mark? Not a clue where that one was going. Does your new guest work for the NFDC? Quite possibly. There is Graham Footy Williams pointing out the shortcomings of the ULEZ system, which surrounds me now. I am now a ULEZ. Does that make me a ULesbian? I don't think it probably does, but Ken Hatcher said, Betty asked, can we see your teeth? I'll put them in a jam jar and I'll show them to you at some point. I thought this was an absolute belter of a question. The M1 built at a rate of 1 completed mile every 8 days, and yet what is HS2? HS2 is it 150, maybe 200 miles long, and we're allowing whatever it is, 20 years or something ridiculous. Dan Cullen believes in 10 to 15 years' time we will have humans on site. I am inclined to agree. But will their role have changed? Will they now be partly one step removed, operating remotely controlled machines or autonomous machines? Thomas Whiting, good morning to you, Thomas, says we had all-electric skip truck this week and the builder's merchants lorry with an electric Hiab. It is headed that way. It is unquestionably headed that way. And it's I've said it so many times, I'm almost blue in the face. We will not wake up one day and think, oh, yesterday was diesel day, now everything is electric and hydrogen. It won't work like that. There will be a gradual phasing out, and that phasing has begun. I know of a couple of demolition companies. Our friend Andy Dyson works for Erith. They've got a couple of electric vans in the fleet, or they certainly did have the last time I saw them. So it's gradually, incrementally making its way into the industry. Lou Carney, who is enjoying herself way too much this morning, maybe his aunt is the corpse and he's asking you to dig her up. As I said, I've got nothing on this afternoon. Got to go and see my daughter, but apart from that, nothing. Yes, Mark, I want to know where my auntie is too. See, doesn't take long for you lot to get distracted, does it? One person says something weird in the chat, and all of a sudden, we've all turned sideways. Now, memorable moments of your lifetime. Peter McKenna once delivered a 50-foot long, 15-foot wide crisp fryer to a factory in Edinburgh. Prince Charles was overlooking the site. He came over and shook my hand, asked how many cars had I taken out on the journey, as it seems too large for normal roads. I said only one, and it was a large black Rolls Royce on the way into the site. He grinned and said, oh well, it seems I'll have to order a taxi for my journey back to Balmoral. That's a corker of a story, and I'm sure I've mentioned this before. I was at an event once with, I was at the Royal Institute of British Architects in London, just opposite. I'm fairly sure it's just around the corner anyway from the House of Commons. And Prince Charles was the guest speaker. He loves him a bit of architecture, carbuncles and all. I went for a leak, as one does, and I was mid-leak, and two security guys came in and said, could you leave the toilet, sir? So I finished my business, washed my hands and walked out, and the reason I was being ushered out was because Prince Charles was stood outside waiting to use the facilities. Apparently he doesn't like people seeing the crown jewels. True story. Trust me, I couldn't have made that up. Question 8. My father died suddenly of a heart attack the day before his 50th birthday, 40 years ago. Had to wake up and smell the coffee. Life is not finite. Yeah, that would be a shocker. So obviously 40 years ago, but sorry to hear that. And I know, obviously, my dad was somewhat, he was very ill. COPD and cancer and various other bits and pieces, so we knew that the time was fast approaching, but it didn't seem to be approaching quite as quickly as it was. And it was, funnily enough, this day last year I went on holiday to Greece, and a couple of days into the holiday I got the phone call from my son, who had a call from the health service that my dad had been rushed to hospital, and he phoned to tell me that my dad hadn't made it. So yes, I can relate to that entirely. Mark's teeth are like the stars; they only come out at night. Yeah, becoming very true. Let's have a look. There is Luke Arney still enjoying herself way too much. There is Al Grierson making excuses for himself, but good excuses, I think. We'll miss this Saturday show in the Netherlands. It's my wife's cousin's holiday weekend. 32 people, scary, bit like the audience of this show on some occasions. Jim Turner did enjoy our. I think the company was called Vitali over in Italy. We had a bit of old country style blues with a bit of dubstep thrown in, selected specifically, and I do mean specifically for Jim Turner. I think this new guy's auto translate is allconfused.com. There was something going on. I think he's left now. I'm going to make a note of all of these because I think these are some of the other changes we're likely to see. Drones overhead inspecting site, collecting data, sending instructions to robot cranes and excavators, with automated builders who need no human involvement. At the stroke of the pen, the skill shortage will be solved. The risks, or the only risk, might be cyber attacks. The other one I mentioned as well, or the other one I didn't mention rather, is if you're thinking 10 to 15 years hence, will we actually have some kind of gender balance? Will we have more women on site, assuming we still have humans on site? Will we have more women? Will we have a broader mix racially? Will we have a broader mix sexual orientation? Will you be able to say I am gay while wearing a hard hat without fear of any kind of retribution? I wonder. One can only hope. Let's have a look. More entries for the competition, but as we know, Andy Darvell actually won it. Dan Cullen, wouldn't it be hilarious if this new guy won the cap and wanted me to send it all the way to India? Yes, it would. It would. Thankfully, well, maybe like a Komatsu baseball cap, but thankfully he didn't win because I don't have to pay for the postage. There is Ken Hatcher going, saying, right, back to work. Back for 5 minutes to say goodbye for today, folks. Congratulations to the winner before I leave. Thank you very much indeed. Jeff Schofield on the mic, singing about construction lights. Never thought I'd see the day. Let's have a look. Yes, if anybody actually has any skills in the songwriting or musical performance sphere, please, I would love. I would happily drop our intro music and replace it with the Breakfast Show song, if anybody can come up with that. Let's have a look. Something's just gone slightly weird. There is Dan Cullen going as well. Andrew Croft saying, well done, Andy. The Hot Ashra, also by the Dubliners. Dubliners have quite a construction back catalogue, by the sound of things. Great show today. Failed to see how humans can be phased out of physical delivery of demolition. It's too varied and complex for computers and robots. Humans are still best equipped to estimate, manage, and deliver all types of demolition. Listen, Andy Dyson is, and I do mean this in the nicest possible way, and I mean this really sincerely, Andy Dyson is unquestionably a demolition expert. Unquestionably. I am but a journalist, and some might question my abilities in that field as well. However, think about this, Andy. Just mull this over. And I've said this so many times, others are probably bored with it. Imagine a top-down demolition where you are basically working around the top of a structure, drop down to the next level, and then you take that one down and you drop down to the next level. Why could you not program machines to do that? Why do we have to put men up on the roof when we could potentially just map that thing and send Brocs up there on their own to do the job on their own. I take on board your point about things like estimating and managing and all that kind of thing, but the actual donkey work, the work of actually taking down lumps of building, love to know. Andy Deville says, two most memorable moments of my life: birth of my daughter and the day I passed out of training as a retained firefighter. Both. Well, congratulations on both. Superb, I think. Graham Footy Williams is watching me from bed. You do know the time, do you, Graham? Yeah, you're on the right window of my Cat 352, where I belong. Graham Williams is excusing himself for tomorrow. I've got to go and sign on the dole when your program's on. Unfortunately, that's going to be fun. Won't be the same without you. Al Grissom, question of the day. Holding my kids in the maternity ward. So weird and daunting, holding a little human being that I created and is now my responsibility. Yeah, absolutely. I can so relate to that. As I say, I'm literally being handed a car seat. We locked the car seat into place and then started the car up and thinking, I've got to deal with that. Did anybody see a manual or a spec sheet for how this thing works? Had exactly the same thing, although to a much lesser degree, when I passed my driving test. Got myself a car, a Volkswagen Beetle, a very old Volkswagen Beetle. Got myself a Beetle. And the first journey I did as a driver was to take my wife, girlfriend at the time, take her back home. Journey of about, 5 or 6 miles. Took her home, kissed her goodnight, turned the car around, drove to the end of her road, and then realised this was the first time I'd been behind the wheel of a car completely on my own. Without my dad, without a driving instructor, without my girlfriend at the time, I was completely on my own. And for about 2 seconds, the ability to operate a car just fell out of my head. And I just sat there looking at it thinking, how does this go again? And then it came back to me. So yes. Question of the day. 1971 in the Solomon Islands. Donating blood that helped a child survive. Wow. There's a story for you. Mick, I've already seen your prowess with the written word. Write that as a story. I'd love to see that one sometime. Dan Cullen. Have I got something to do with his aunt's disappearance? I'm saying nothing. A 4-letter word of the female gender containing the letters UNT. Aunt. Thank you for that. Andy Dovell, you couldn't have a robot operating a high reach. You need to feel how the machine is interacting with the building. If it's pushing the building or pulling on a beam, it just wouldn't work. And the Mark 1 eyeball will always be better than any camera. I agree 100%. However, is the high reach the way forward in the future? Obviously, they have their limitations in city centres because there's not always room to have a proper, particularly the ultra high reach, that being one thing. And given the fact that we are gradually switching from diesel over to potentially electric and hydrogen, is a high reach actually the best way to take down a building anyway? Thoughts? It's 5 years anniversary of my dad and aunt, his sister, who have passed away days apart from each other. Wow. They do tend to come together, don't they? My mum went first, and 7 months, almost to the day, my dad followed her. So I know that feeling. I've used drones while operating high reach. Gives you an excellent viewpoint. Works really well. Yeah, absolutely. And there is our prize winner saying thank you, everyone. You're more than welcome. Next big thing in house building will be wide-scale modular home building or robot bricklaying machines. Funnily enough, I had an invite to the next Kent Construction Expo. Had it arrive yesterday. Last time I was there, they actually had one of those bricklaying robots. Have to say, pretty damn impressive and bloody fast as well. Have a look if you get a chance. I had ChatGPT write a song about my channel in the style of Bob Dylan. It didn't scan, but the lyrics were a perfect example of socialist realism. Were you planning to sing this, Al? Or were you planning to put that into another form of AI? Incidentally, this is a slight aside because we're almost at the hour mark. I actually spent a bit of time yesterday playing around with another new AI program called Play HT. which is basically text to speech. So you write some words into it and it delivers them as speech. And if you heard our advert for the stickers that we're selling, and this one as well, I won't play the whole thing, but just to prove it.
If you are enjoying this episode, please consider supporting the show. You can...
Yeah, that is AI. That is an AI voice that's delivering that. So I actually wrote an article about the AI yesterday, just because I felt like it. Graham says, some morning, so I ain't got nothing better to do. Might sit here and keep warm, watch a show in a nice warm area. I do rise the time and I will get up after the show. I am your start of the day. Andy Darvell says, High Reach is always the way because they are bloody cool and everyone loves watching one. Said the High Reach operator. But yeah, I know what you're saying. I can't wait to see what tech and machines can do in demo in 10, 20, 50 years' time. Exciting times. See, Andy Darvell is young enough to actually envisage what things might look like in 10, 20, and possibly even 50 years' time. I'm looking forward about a fortnight right about now. Sing, do you want to flood the entire planet? No, I don't. Thank you. Actually getting afraid of AI. I was watching a panorama show on how it's taking over. See, I'm not buying it. I know as a species, we humans love to be afraid of something. We love to be afraid of alien invasion, zombies, the communist threat, the Arab threat, the IRA, and all of those things. I know we thrive on those sort of things. But there are aspects of AI that have basically given me an additional person in my office that costs me nothing and that does the job way better than somebody that I would have to train up. For example, how would I could have read the advert myself, but that would have meant firing up the microphone, firing up the camera, firing up the light, going into a program, instead of which I just typed what I wanted to say and said, AI, sort that out, would you? And AI did precisely that. I'm a fan, and I'm saying I'm a fan partly because if in 10 years' time we are all ruled by artificial intelligence overlords, I'd like them to look back on this and think, oh, he's on our side. We won't kill him. You have to be careful what you say. Doesn't always put what you mean. Like when you try reading it, doesn't always understand what it says. Not sure what that button's about, but anyway, the hour is up. I don't know how we always end up at an hour, but we seem to. Andy Darvell, I'm going to say very quickly, please let me have your postal address if you haven't done so already, and I will get your baseball cap in the post for you today. I'll be back here tomorrow, 10 a.m. sharp for the Breakfast Show, after which I'm actually going to meet Neil Edwards for lunch, which I'm looking forward to enormously. I haven't seen him for quite some time. There is Graham Williams. I'll be back here tomorrow at 10, so will I. And I will also be back here on Saturday as well for more of the same. And I'm quite excited about talking about the future. So if you fancy a bit of that, please tune in. Love to get your thoughts on all the various individual bits of it. I'm not talking about, are we looking at a complete robotization of the industry? I'm thinking about the little bits and pieces about your job and possibly mine that could be rectified. For example, what would be a good example? As it stands today, for us to be able to use AI as an example, we need a dedicated device. It might be a mobile phone, it might be an iPad, it might be a computer, or whatever it might be. What about a heads-up display in your work glasses? Just to so that you've had your toolbox talk, you've had your instructions for the day, but those are also in your glasses. So when Andy Darvell fires up his High Reach machine, he can press a button on the side of his glasses. Not only is he seeing the building, but he is seeing an overlay of exactly how that building was constructed, and he can therefore judge the best way to bring it down safely and productively. Wouldn't that be a lovely thing? Let's have a chat about it. Dan Cullen. What's the story on his predictions? Neil Edwards on construction. I will be asking him as part of the catch up. I'll keep you posted on all that. Right, we're over the hour. People, go and do things. Go and make the future before I start to talk about it on Saturday. I'll be back here again tomorrow at 10 a.m. Till then, everybody have a fantastic day. I'll see you all very soon. All the best.